partly on one side of Jordan, the other part is over in Transjordan. Don't tell the peace conference in Annapolis that Jordan isn't even on the table, as far as I'm aware. Although I don't know why it isn't on the table, because the British just cut it off from the mandate for Palestine and gave 2/3 of the mandate for Palestine to the house of the Sharif of Mecca for services rendered in the First World War, and no one ever utters a peep about it. And whereas in the original mandate for Palestine there was room to deal with the territorial claims of two peoples, by the time they cut 2/3 of it away, there was no longer room enough in the 1/3 that was left to deal with the issues we had before us. And so the whole mess began back in the 1920s, but no one goes back that far. And so people are lucky that people have short memories. I'd put it all on the table if we're going to negotiate things. Anyway, if I believed in the Bible, I sure would put it all on the table. So, and all those who turned back were delivered up to the sword, but those who were held fast, there's that holding fast, steadfastness again, escaped to the land of the north. When did they escape to the land of the north? In the Roman period here, or that we're having here, or we're talking about escaping to in the Babylonian captivity? I don't know. I think maybe we're talking about this period here somewhat. That's what's so confusing about all these delivering ups. As he said, I will exile the tabernacle of your king and the basis of your statutes from my tent of Damascus. Now this is a really weird one. This is Amos 5:26. Now this, like Zechariah and the other one, this is manuscript A. It's going to be interpreted. Pesher, if you like. The books of the Torah, these are the tabernacle of the king. So the word tabernacle of the king are for these people the books of the Torah. Once again, and it says books, by the way, not rolls. It says separate. Very strange. As he, God, said, I will establish the tabernacle of David, which has fallen. Another passage from Amos 9:11. The king is the community. Oh, well, in Christianity, in Paul's letters, Jesus is the community. And the members of his body are the members of the community. It's just slightly different imagery than you get in Corinthians. 2nd century BC or 1st century AD? Did Paul study here? Was he originally part of this community? In my view, yes. Then he took doctrines that he learned here and moved on with them in a different manner. That's my personal view. I can't prove that. It's just what I personally think. Having studied these things. He uses so many of the doctrines that I don't, Jesus was here, I can't speak about that. I know what Paul said because I have his letters, and most people acknowledge that a certain number of them are authentic. Gospels are another question. There was no tape recorders around that time. I can't depend on the Gospels as I can Paul's letters, that's all I can do. To me, Paul's letters are primary documents, Gospels are secondary documents, derivative documents. Maybe they're accurate, maybe they have some polemical point to make. In any case, the king is the community. The base of the statutes, they are the books of the prophets. It's a strange view of things. Whose words Israel despised. This is anti-Israel in a way, too. Something like the New Testament sometimes is. And now the star, he wasn't even mentioned here. But it's going to be mentioned a couple of lines later. Numbers 24:17, the star prophecy. The star is the interpreter of the, I think it is Torah, who came to Damascus. I have law here, but it probably should be Torah. And we had him already mentioned, didn't we, in column 6? Who came to Damascus. As it is written, a star shall go forth from Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. Well, we also hear about the star over Bethlehem, in the Jesus story, and so on. We hear about the star and the Jewish messianic leader, an individual named Bar Kokhba in the 2nd century, who led the second war against Rome. His initial name was Bar Kosiba, but somehow he changed that name to Bar Kokhba. Kokhba in Hebrew means star, son of the star. It's in this thing here, the Kokhba, the star. I don't know what it all means, I can just tell you what's going on. Can't tell you the final, I'm not, I'm not Reverend whoever knows all the answers to this. But this is the first usage of the star prophecy. The second usage is in the War Scroll. The third usage is in those testimonia I read you last time. 3 times the star prophecy is in the extant materials at Qumran. Now, at the end of the Jewish war, I don't have time to read it to you now because I have to stick to this document. Hopefully I'll do it next time maybe. Josephus says, when he's interpreting the signs for the destruction of the temple, one of the signs is that I think a cow gave birth to a lamb. Another sign is that there are heavenly forces rushing through the heavens that they could hear and see. A third, cow giving birth to a lamb, that was a real funny one. A third one is that the people in the temple heard a voice crying, and there was clattering, "Let us go forth," and they slammed the doors behind them. God leaving the temple. These were all the signs of the destruction of the temple, according to Josephus. At the end of the Jewish war, you can read them yourself. And then he says, but the thing that most moved our young men to revolt against Rome was an obscure prophecy from among their religious tracts that a world ruler would come out of Palestine. Oh, wow. You mean he forgot to tell us that earlier in the Jewish war? That the Jewish war was a messianic uprising? That the thing that most moved our young men to revolt against Rome was an obscure prophecy from among their religious texts that a world ruler would come out of Palestine? There are 2 parts of that obscure prophecy. One is here in the Numbers. Star will rise out of Jacob, a scepter to rule the world. And the second one comes in Isaiah, and I'll show it to you. We even have it in the Isaiah Peshers from Qumran. I can't give it to you right off the top of my head. But I think it is, and Lebanon shall fall by a mighty one. And I'll explain why that's also part of the Messianic prophecy. But look here. What am I saying? What is Josephus saying? We didn't read all of Josephus. That the war that he describes against Rome